Alive. Currently got my CSX freight train creeping along here, pulling a mixed freight. I'll probably get some other pieces of equipment, maybe get even 2 trains running on the layout if we can. Wait for some other people to join in. In the meantime, I'll pick up the pace on this train here. Chase Railway Lines Railroad, welcome to the live stream. Ash Edits, hello. A whole bunch of people joining in. HO Trackside Productions, hello. Frito TV, welcome. We got some longtime viewers in here. SMT, can you run an SD40-2? Yes, I've got a CN SD40-2 I haven't run in a while, and I was actually just talking about running something on the inner circuit, so why don't we run that? This right here is a locomotive I found on eBay a few years ago. Not a particularly special engine. I don't know why, but I just saw this thing on here and I really wanted to purchase it, so I did. Gears were all packed with dust and hair, so it wasn't a perfect runner, but cleaned and lubed the whole thing up, and it's a pretty half-decent engine, I'd say. There we go. I saw my first Heritage unit today. It's Penn Central. Oh, cool. What railroad was that on? Can you run the GG1? We could probably get a GG1 going. Got any GP7s laying around? I've definitely got some GP locomotives. I'm not very good at identifying the difference between, like, let's say a GP7 and a GP9. So I probably do. I just couldn't tell you which is which. People try to explain the differences to me. I think it usually has to do with the number of radiators and so on, but my memory is not great for that kind of stuff. Okay, and you're in the Yellowstone later. Yeah, I don't see why not. I just repaired that a few days ago. Hey SMT, I was at an antique store yesterday and found a Bachmann Dale Earnhardt complete train set, transformer and all, for just $35. I was pumped. I don't blame you. 35 bucks for an entire train set? That's a pretty darn good deal. Is it possible to put 22 radius curves and 18 curves to make a double track mainline on a 4x8? Absolutely. You might even be able to get away with having both lines be 22, because on my 4x8, I actually had to put a little spacer on the outer track. So if you're willing to, I don't know, maybe just add some borders on the layout just to extend it a tiny bit, you might be able to have both lines be 22 radius. Anyways, I think I'll go get a GG1. Maybe we'll try to throw that on there with what's currently running, and we'll just have 3 trains running at the same time. I don't know, but yeah, we'll have some fun with that. Both of my tracks are 22. Yeah, there you go. I'll be curious to see how speed-matched Bachmann Spectrum locomotive and Rivarossi locomotive are. I think the GG1 is a little faster. Yeah, it's definitely going to slam into the back of the freight train here. Not enough to derail it, though. That's cool. Do you have a Niagara? I do have one. It doesn't work very well, though. How's the Hershey factory? No progress in the last few weeks, but I'm gonna go out and buy some more supplies and just finish that off. It's like 95% of the way there. It really is not gonna take much more to get that thing done. I mean, current level of detail, I'm frankly already happy with it, but I just want to get it like that last little bit. That way I can really call it finished. Aloha from the big island of Hawaii. Welcome. To be fair, you've been saying that for about a year. Well, kind of, but the difference is that there's actually been progress on it. You know, like in 2021, it was really hard to get stuff done because I had a job which was taking up most of my time because they gave me unpreferable hours. Now I've got a new job which actually has that hours I want, so I've got a little bit more time to work on it. So yeah, I mean, progress has not been as fast as I would have liked, but you know, a lot of things changed in my life which I wasn't expecting, so you know, I couldn't entirely see that coming, but I really mean it this time. I think it's close. I mean, again, it's like 95% of the way there. Good evening from sunny California. Welcome. Please fix the shunting cars on the inner circuit. Shunting cars? All this? Hey CMT, will you be able to pick up a Bachmann Bew? It's an American 440 knuckle coupler on the front and a British one on the back. I've never heard of that. Congratulations on 80,000 subscribers. I hope you get over 100,000. Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just happy for the channel have reached what it currently has. I really wouldn't have expected that, but you never know. Maybe it will reach 100 one day if I'm lucky. Anyways, I think we'll change things up. Somebody was requesting that I run a 210-2, so I think we'll go get one of those. We'll have it pull the mixed freight, and I think that will be fun. And Jackalis, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your name right, but he's asking if I'm planning on expanding the layout. I might add a little bit more on here, but overall, there is not really much more room down here to expand. This is not my house, ultimately, so I'm kind of out of space. But you know what? I have just about everything on here I ever would have wanted, so I think it should be good. Norman Corey, welcome to the live stream. Hello from Boston, Massachusetts. Did you get a chance to watch my video of the scratch-built Hiawatha? If so, what did you think? Also, say hi to Nerfcat. I believe I did see the scratch-built Hiawatha. I quite like it. I also liked the Rivarossi engine you were building out of 2 different locomotives. That was pretty unique. I don't know how you put that stuff together. Very creative. What's the brown train on the siding in front of you? This was just a bunch of miscellaneous cars which were not really useful anymore. They're all going to be thrown out. And I have this, like, this is not even a full locomotive. It's just junk parts I was going to throw away. So instead of throwing all the stuff out, I decided just to kind of turn it into a bit of a display piece. And then, you know, it's just kind of interesting, this abandoned train. I like creating little scenes, so everything kind of tells a bit of a story. Do you think a small layout can make a big difference? If you're asking if you can accomplish anything with not a lot of space, I would say so. You know, you have to be creative. If you don't have a lot of room to build a massive layout, you know, layer it up. That's one way. You know, you just have multiple layers of the same layout, and then you're not actually taking up any more square footage. Or build something that can be stored under a bed or put up beside a wall. There's tons of ways you can make something cool without a lot of space. I mean, I've been lucky, so I got all this room down here in the basement, but You know, I understand if you're in an apartment or a smaller house, you know, that space is of the essence. N scale might be your best friend in that case. All right, and we got the 210-2. I also brought the Yellowstone over because somebody requested that as well. I'll get those two engines going. What scale is your layout? Everything is HO scale. 440. I don't think I have a working 440 at the moment. And Bruce, welcome to the live stream. I was looking on eBay today and was happy to find an Athearn BNSF for $60, so I had to pick it up. Yeah, that's pretty good for an Athearn, especially a BNSF unit. I find those seem to be quite sought after. I bought my first Scale Trains locomotive off eBay a few days ago. I'm really excited whenever that comes in because a lot of people have been requesting that I add a Scale Trains locomotive to the collection, so that should be exciting. Anyways, here's our Mahano 210-2. Wonderful locomotive. For some reason, the CN locomotive has stopped. I wonder why that's that. My first model train is a Bachmann GP40, the Rail Chief set. Yeah, I had one of those as well. They seem to be very common, but I get it. The BNSF engine in that set looks kind of cool, so I can see why a lot of people wanted one. SMT, are you going to add a sound locomotive? I already have some sound-equipped locomotives, but yeah. Probably add some more. Sorry, I've got a ladybug crawling across my phone here. There we go. Dodger Bend Railway, hello. Is it rare to find Athearn -9 trucks? Because I'm trying to find some on eBay for my Chicago Northwestern -9. I don't think that the parts themselves are all that rare, but the amount of people actually willing to sell them online is pretty low. Like, that's what I find. There's a lot of locomotives, for example, I've been on the lookout for, and you would think they'd be everywhere on eBay. Like, let's say a Lifelike CN GP40. Like, if you go to a train show here, you'll find 5 of those. But on eBay, I couldn't even find one, so it's funny how it can work like that. So they probably exist. They might just be in a little bit more of a niche part of the internet. How cold is it in Canada? It's pretty cold in Wisconsin. It's actually been surprisingly nice. The last few days, it's been about 20 degrees Celsius outside. I don't know what that translates to in Fahrenheit, but by Canadian standards, that's toasty weather for the spring. Uh-oh, looks like we've got a bit of a derailment. We'll let this go around one more time, and then we'll get the Yellowstone on. Nice layout, thank you. Please fix the stuff near the factory. I've seen it, and I've been asking for a while now. I'm not going to bother fixing all that up. That entire yard needs to be redone anyway. And if I'm expanding the layout out, it's all going to need to be ripped up. So I'll probably just leave that section as is. Today, a CSX engineer gave me a CSX branded toboggan, and he also let me see the inside of the locomotive. Wow. Hey, SMT, what do you think of Via Rail's new fleet of locomotives they're starting to introduce? I think they look fine. I'm going to miss the P42s because those are one of my favorite types of locomotive, but I don't hate the new ones. They're a lot better than those first generation Chargers that Amtrak was buying for their Surfliner trains. I found those things so ugly. Something's derailed. I think the 210-2 came off the track, but that's okay. Oh, very nice. It re-railed itself. Your videos are encouraging me to repair my old locomotives that have been sitting for a while. Well, that's good to hear. I've heard that from a few people. I had this one guy reach out to me and he's like, hey man, I found this box of my dad's old trains and I saw one of your videos which was working on a similar locomotive and I tried it out and lo and behold, I got his train working. So it's fantastic to hear about that because you know, a lot of people, you know, have some stuff that's been sitting around for a while, or they're like that guy, they have their dad's old trains. And the truth is, a lot of this stuff, you know, you just clean all the contacts up, you add some oil, and most of the time you'll get them running again. Anyways, we'll pull this thing off. We'll get the Yellowstone on. The legendary fiberglass pencil, and that's a very good tool for sure. Really, I don't know, even you could use like 1,000 grit sandpaper if you had to on electrical contacts, just as long as it's not something overly abrasive that will scratch the metal. You're pretty good to go. Sorry I'm late. Well, you're never really late on this on the SMT show because I don't ever time these live streams. SMT, do antique stores sell trains for decent prices? That's a bit of a mixed bag because it all depends on the seller. So some antique stores, they get model trains and they think that they're toys, in which case they'll sell them very cheap. So I've bought, you know, Tyco engines and things like that that are probably worth $15 for 8. That's a pretty good deal. But there have been other times where I've seen, again, old Tyco locomotives and they think that they're antiques worth $1 million, and those are usually listed for, I don't know, let's say $40, which is way overpriced. So you just gotta get a good idea of what things are worth and then just browse, and if you see something that's overpriced, just leave it there unless it's something you really like. But I wouldn't write antique stores completely off again. Once in a while you find a needle in a haystack. Well, it doesn't sound great, but it is running. Do you ever do operations in the sense of moving cars from one place to another to replace how freight trains run? I've done that before with my Hershey factory. Picked cars up and dropped them off. I was doing a live stream earlier with that. There's probably going to be more operating sessions, but there are some parts of the layout which are just not working that well at the moment. So until I get those fixed, not so much. This comment just went by. I can't find the comment, but I just saw one fly by. Asking if I was going to get more Z-scale stuff. The answer is yes, I actually already did. Spoiler for my train show video. I was able to buy this entire box of Z-scale trains for $10. Now, I don't know a lot about this stuff. We've got like a station, some sort of bridge, I think, and this is the thing that really excited me. I don't know anything about it. It looks like one of those prototypical German propeller-powered trains. But this is a Z-scale model. So I don't know how special these are, but again, $10 for everything in that box. I figured that had to be a good deal. A lot of trains have been having issues with these switches. I think I'll have to replace those soon. Hey SMT, can you drive some Seaboard Coastline engines? I literally live in a Seaboard Coastline station. Wow, that's pretty cool. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge fan of Seaboard Coastline. I think I've got one engine, an F unit, which would work pretty well, so we'll go find that. Mike Meritz, welcome. Seaboard coastline. I wonder where that engine's at. It might be on this shelf. Can't be that far away because I was running that locomotive on a previous live stream. Yeah, there it is. This was a locomotive which I found at a train show. It was actually being sold by my model train club. They had all shown up and they were running a table together. And I saw this locomotive and I asked the guys there how much they wanted for it. And they were like, you can just have it, man. Like, you know, you're part of the club and everything. We don't want it. Anyway, I think I gave them $10 just to, you know, help the club's funding for it. But it's actually turned out to be a very good engine. It's one of those older Atlases, and the thing runs like a dream. What do you think of Rapido trains? I'm quite impressed with Rapido. Their stuff's kind of expensive, but for the most part, I haven't had any issues with anything I've bought from them, and the detail is terrific. And we'll set this one up on the mountain layout. We'll have it running in the background. SMT, my town had a model train show today, and I bought a Delaware Hudson yard diesel. Can you show the Hershey factory? It's my wife's first time on the channel. Yeah, here it is. So for anybody who doesn't know, this is a model of Hershey's Canada, which was a factory operated out of Smith Falls, Ontario. For a lot of you people from Pennsylvania, you'll probably know about the original Hershey's factory, and this was the second factory they opened outside of Pennsylvania. So this was the very first kind of off-the-grid plant, and they built this to try to get into the Canadian market. So that's the story behind that. I'll just see next request. I'll probably throw that behind the freight train now that we've got that up on the mountain layout. Dave Z to G scale. I just caught a BNSF war bonnet out rail fanning. Wow. Hey SMT, is there any way I can get myself better couplings that won't break after 5 hours of usage? I was gonna say 5 years. Good luck. Yeah, Katy couplers are kind of expensive, but they're very reliable. If you buy yourself some Katys, I would be very surprised if they fail. You know, especially if you're gentle with them, they'll pretty much last forever. Go Viewer or go home. Welcome to the live stream. Mike Meritz, wow, I haven't seen the Hershey factory in several months. It's looking great. Yeah, it's what I was saying. It's coming along. It's taken a while, but I'm determined. Also, the cannabis company closed down the factory. Yeah, I know. They got this factory reopened as something else, and then now that business is on its way out. So it's had a bit of a rough track record the last few years, but I'm confident they're going to find another business to move in there. Maybe another chocolate factory. That'd be nice. Please run a Southern Pacific locomotive. Southern Pacific. What do we have? There's the Kraus Mafia. That would probably work relatively well. However, there's got to be some other Southern Pacific engine that I haven't run in a while. Well, there's the Daylight. That's a good one. I just repaired that the other day, so why don't we run that? Yeah, the little heat shrink drive line for this finally gave up the ghost in a previous live stream. So this time what I did was I went out to my hardware store and I found some two-stroke fuel line. And a lot of people in the community have been recommending that just because it has a little more flex. So we'll see how long that lasts. But either way, the engine seems to be running pretty well now. So I guess we'll have it pull this train here. I think I might have snapped the wire. Oh, there we go. Huh, weird. Well, I don't know what the deal with that is. I also don't know why this one keeps stopping. Yep. I was like, why is this thing not running well? I just repaired it, but that wire is looking a little frayed, and now it's snapped, so back on the repair bench that goes. Robert says, how are you? My name is Roberto. I'm from Brazil. It's been a while since you've run the LRC train. It's a beautiful one and a historic Canadian locomotive. Please put it out to run. Yeah, we can make that happen. Sparky, welcome to the live stream. How are you? I'm afraid it's frayed. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Won't be hard to fix. A little bit of solder and I'm sure that will be back in business. Do you have any military trains in your collection? I believe I do. I think it might be in this section. It's some sort of an F unit. I believe it was made by Model Power. Yeah, here it is. Via time. Yeah, that's right. It seems to run pretty well. Does Larkspur have any used scale when you were there? Used scale. I don't really understand the question. If you're talking about like used HO scale stuff, they definitely do. Random question. How old are you and how long have you been collecting trains? I'm 22. I started collecting when I was 5 years old in 2006. Now you have a DPU. Yeah. All right, I think we'll let this one run around on this layout here and take that one off. I have a few Riverosity drive shafts. If you need one for your Hudson, I can drop it in the mail. It's a very generous offer. I'm going to try the two-stroke drive line fix on the Blue Goose, but we'll see. Does Larkspur have a used G-scale the last time you were there? I think they did, but I don't know. No idea. Stuff does move there. Hey SMT, what's up? I got a Bachmann Challenger set. It came with a Union Pacific F7. Shell seems to be loose. Is that normal for them? Also, could you run the BNSF locomotive that is not the Kato? The BNSF engine, which is not the Kato. Well, I've got a Bachmann one somewhere. What's your wackiest steam locomotive? The wackiest steam locomotive I have is probably this old Varney, which I've kind of put together over the years with various parts. Uh-oh. Sounds like a derailment has happened somewhere. Whoops. Looks like we got a little derailment to fix. Dude, did I just see a layout leaning against the wall? Yeah. I bought this at the train show. It was $10 for the entire N-scale layout here. It's a little bit of a catch, which is that the track is all sort of messed up. But, you know, I've been trying to get my current N-scale collection all sorted out for a while there. And I'm kind of thinking I might just get rid of that layout, replace it with that one, move all the buildings onto that one, and just create a new layout. It's because I feel like that one would be a little more interesting. All right, we'll let that loop around and we'll get the BNSF engine going. That's a deal, even with bad track. It's at least nickel silver track, so it's not gonna, it's probably just gonna take a bit of cleaning and soldering, honestly. What's your favorite British locomotive from the lot you picked up a few months ago? That's an interesting question. Probably at the moment the Intercity 125. I wanted one of those locomotives for a long time now, and at first it didn't seem like a very good project because the motor was burnt out, but I was very lucky just happening to get a spare motor with that lot. And I think overall the engine turned out very well. This thing have a broken coupler. Oh, no, it's working. Run 2 of your 040 diesel shunters, top and tailing the goods train, and see how it goes. Also, hello from Australia. I think they would knock it off the track. Well, looks like we've got a super chat from somebody called Ratsbird. Howdy from West Fargo. For drivelines, use 1.5 millimeter ID 3mm OD silicone tubing. Try Amazon. You can run a Northern Pacific U25. I know you have one. Well, thank you so much for the super chat. I don't know what a Northern Pacific U25 is, but for the donation, I'll try to search it up and see if I can find what you're talking about. I don't think you're lying that I have one. I just don't know what a U25 is. Northern Pacific. Well, I'm pretty sure I have a U25. I don't think I have a Northern Pacific, though. We can have a look. I have a Western Pacific U25. Maybe that's what you meant. Yeah, I've got the... well, I don't know. It's got the wrong trucks. I mean, this looks kind of similar. It's got the right arrangement. You run a Varney steam locomotive. Also, have you had any trouble with the Varneys? Yeah, we could probably run a Varney. Have I had trouble with them? They can have problems. I mean, a lot of these Varney locomotives, 50 plus years old. So with any locomotive that's been around for 50 years, you're bound to have issues. But if you clean and oil those things, they're generally pretty reliable. They weren't poorly made, that's for sure. They definitely had good craftsmanship. Anyway, we'll get this thing going, probably on the inner circuit there. And then we'll go searching for that Varney locomotive. Does the crossing signal work? It lights up, but the lights don't flash. Strange that trains are all stopping in the same section. I wonder if there's an electrical problem there. Anyways, so there's that Varney engine. I'm just trying to think if there's any other Varney steamers I have. So that one doesn't run very well. I haven't serviced it in a while, so... yeah, I think that's... well, there's also this. I believe that's a Varney. Mantua, nope. Well, I guess we'll bring this classic out, see how that goes. Yeah, F unit is just sending it. All right, we'll see how well this thing goes. Yeah, I think that one needs to get serviced. Yeah, that is a little touchy. It's not horrible, but the brass is pretty oxidized, so I think that might be the problem. SMT, do you have an 060 DCC that you might want to send this way? I can pay in Canadian Tire money. I have an 060. I don't know which one it is you're chasing after, though. We can definitely chat about that. Thank you so much for the super chat. Oh, wait a minute. Okay, there's definitely some glitches going on. Huh. That's weird. The super chat just repeated itself, but it's the same one. Yeah, it looks like this thing went and jumped the rails. Hey, SMT, can you tell me some extra details about the poetic story of your... Okay, I'm not going to read that last part. Acela. Yeah, the Acela was a locomotive which I got as a birthday gift, I think when I turned 13 or something like that. Anyways, day one, it didn't work right out of the box. It had a problem of some sort. I don't know what, but it had to be repaired. Got it back, and about, I don't know, let's say 6 months later, we were having a Halloween party down here, and this young girl decided to pick it up and throw it at a kid, and it hit the wall and smashed into a million pieces. So that was the second repair. And then the third time, I was running the locomotive way too fast around the layout, and it rolled right off and it hit the floor and smashed again. So that thing has been destroyed countless times. I'm frankly amazed it still runs. Is it doodlebug time? I think so. Please run a Centennial. Yeah, I could probably run one of those. First, I want to get this thing going again. Derailed. Huh. Are you still doing a giveaway? I've actually got 2 giveaways in the queue. I've got a big boy, which is right there. That's going to be given away, I think, as part of a charity raffle. I've been waiting on a tender, but I finally got that, so it's ready to go. Just need to pick a charity. So if you have any suggestions, please let me know. But as for the locomotives giveaway, I'm just going to have to go through them all, figure out which locomotives I want to give away, and then it'll probably be a surprise. I usually just kind of feature that in some videos, so keep your eyes out. I'm sure within the next month that will probably be on its way. Has everyone seen that Athearn has gone to 40% off stock items on their website? I was not aware of that. If that's true, though, that might be a good opportunity to get some stuff. That sounds like quite the deal. I suggest that you give away the poor figure staged on top of the hills. Oh, that thing's a classic. That figure is definitely going to stay up there. I wasn't even the one who put it up there. I don't think so. I don't know. It's a funny thing. Every time I show the layout off, especially to people who are not into model trains, they always have the urge to pick up little things and move them, and I think that somebody did that. Anyways, hey, SMT, can you do operations on your layout like grabbing boxcars from your industries at Hershey's? I definitely will in the future, but right now I've got 2 trains blocking the factory off, so I think that will have to wait. Live service. How do you enter the giveaway? The giveaway is on my Blade? No, maybe it's on my previous video. Yeah, my previous video, the one where I got all the locomotives, that's, you just have to comment on there and you get entered. As for the big boy raffle, nobody's entered for that just yet because it's going to be based on a certain donation number, I'm thinking, which I'll match, so we'll see. I still have to sort the details of that out, but at least I've got all the parts in hand now. So I assume you don't know the performance of aluminum because you're answering my questions. Performance of aluminum? In terms of what? What's the best way to clean HO scale tracks? I just use the little Pico track brights. I find that those work pretty well to tidy up your track. A lot of people use rubbing alcohol. If you're going to use rubbing alcohol, definitely use like 91 or 99%. Because 70% contains a lot of water and you're not going to want that. What's the worst derailment you've ever had on your layout? It's hard to think of which one's the worst, but I have had a few bad ones. I've had entire trains come off the layout. That's about it. Hey, SMT, can you show the British steam locomotive which was not working, the brown one? Yeah, we could probably run that. Unfortunately, the drivers finally gave out on it. The wheels became unquartered, and the little plastic bit, the retainer which holds those in, has split, so I wasn't able to fix it. So the engine only has the piece for the valve gear now. It doesn't have all of its drivers, but it does run really well now. Have you ever gotten an engine which you couldn't fix? It's happened before. I got some L&N locomotive and the motor was completely burned out and I didn't have any replacement and I still don't. So that one I was not able to fix. I'm trying to think. There's definitely been a few over the years. I bought an N-scale engine and the commutator had fallen apart, so I couldn't repair that one either. But I don't know. I'd say probably 90% of the time I get a runner, but there is that 10%-ish time where it doesn't work out. That's okay. How's the red interurban running? Pretty well, I think. I'll go get that in the British engine. What brand was the L&M locomotive? It was a AHM. Run the DD for you. I forgot about that one. I think we'll back this train off the main line, and then we'll be able to run some of these other engines people have been requesting. Hey SMT, how often do you do the chore of cleaning your tracks? There's no schedule for it. I just kind of clean them when I start to notice that everything is performing really poorly. Probably about once a month is optimal, but sometimes it's give or take. Hey SMT, do you have any suggestions for curling Kingston Flex track? Ooh, you can try to take a wider section of the track and just bend it the opposite way. Sometimes that will straighten it out, but I find most of the time once Flex track has a bit of a kink in it, trying to get that back out is really difficult. Sometimes with pliers you can bend the track, but again, trying to get it perfect, it's not so easy. I find one thing that's good to do though, is if you have kind of odd sections of flex track which bend a little bit, provided the bend is not too bad, you can just use that section to make a curve and then you don't have to worry about straightening it out perfectly. Anyway, here is the British locomotive which had a lot of problems, so try to run that. I had to do more work on this thing, as I was mentioning earlier. Replaced the back wheels on the tender and removed the drivers because those were completely destroyed when the quartering issue happened. So anyways, here it is now. It's actually running a fair bit better than it did when I initially worked on it in that video, funny enough. Well, I say that as it gets caught up on a switch, but that has nothing to do with performance and all to do with the flanges. Whoops. So yeah, there's the British engine. Now on to that other one. So this is a trolley which I found about a year ago at a train show. Don't know too much about the history. It was donated to a railway museum to raise funds, and they wanted $5 for it, which I thought was an amazing deal because it's all crafted out of wood. Somebody made this by hand, and I think it's quite a beautiful piece. Anyway, I said I was going to run it, so we'll take this for a quick spin around the layout. Yeah, it's not the quietest, but still a really unique piece. It's definitely one of the most interesting things in my collection. How many DCC locomotives do you have in your collection? Can you show us all the collection and maybe run a DCC steam engine? I'll run the Centennial first, but yeah, we can go through the collection. Hey SMT, what are your opinions on Canadian Pacific finally merging with KCS? I think it seems like a good thing. I'm happy because from what I've heard, they're going to keep their paint schemes separate, which I think is nice. I don't know. I really think it's more about Canadian Pacific expanding than anything else. So at least we're not going to see all the paint schemes change. That's the only thing I'd be a bit bummed out about. This thing has still got plenty of get up and go despite being a 60-year-old engine. Anyways, put that over there. We'll get the Centennial on. This thing, by the way, has probably been the best Bachmann locomotive I've ever owned. It had one problem. It had a clicking gear, but that might have been my fault because I was over ballasting my track. I was like a kid, so it just starts every time. Do you have a Golden Eagle locomotive? I do. Yeah, we'll let this go around for a lap, and then we'll start going through some bits of the collection. Hey, SMT, how do you fix a engine that is tilted to one side and won't go back? I mean, it's kind of hard to tell without knowing anything about it, like what brand it is, but like if it's a cheap diesel, I just check to make sure everything is snapped back into place, or if you've taken it apart, make sure that you've put the trucks in the right way, because some trucks can only go in on one side. Otherwise, I would open up the shell and see if there's something preventing it, because let's say you have a wire which is supposed to be routed a certain way and it's bent back. That can cause issues. Just play around with the truck, take it apart, see if you can figure out what's blocking it. You know, there's got to be a reason, so it's not always obvious. Anyway, so yeah, as for DCC steam locomotives, we've got the Daylight. That one doesn't run. We've got the American Freedom Train. That one does run, but it has a lot of derailing issues. But this one's actually sound equipped. Got my Mikado by Athearn Genesis. That one runs, but it's got a spun gear or something. The motor is turning faster than the engine's going. I don't know what's up with that. And then over here we got a few more steamers. I don't think any of these have DCC. However, I'm just looking for it right now. I do have a DCC steamer somewhere amongst all of these. It wasn't in storage here, but I can't seem to find it now. Yeah, I don't know. Just trying to see if this one will start. It is a DCC steam engine, so I guess it fits the criteria. Have you ever visited the Waterloo Central Railway before? I can't say I have. I've heard quite a bit about it, but never personally been there. SMT, if you wanted to, in a few months, I might be able to post some Australian rolling stock to you for your B-class locomotive. If I did, could you open that? Yeah, absolutely. If you want to send me an email about that, we can chat about that. I have an Athearn F unit where the front truck keeps getting caught on the ladders around the curves and it causes it to derail. Is there any way to fix that? I don't know of any way to fix that other than just removing the ladders, which I've done on a few of my locomotives. I don't know if those engines were just meant to run on a wider radius of curve, but yeah, I have had that problem as well. But I don't know. In my opinion, it's worth sometimes removing little details for performance. So like the little air hoses on the couplers, sometimes I'll just cut the bottoms of those off just because they can cause derailments, things like that. In my opinion, it's much nicer to have something that runs well rather than having a few more prototypical details. What's your opinion on island railways? I don't know a lot about different island railways. The only railway I did hear a little bit about was the island of Turks and Caicos, which I've been on vacation to a couple times. Tiny island, but they actually had a railway back when they were running, I think, some sort of a cotton plantation, if I'm not... no, it was thistle. I think that's what they were growing. I can't remember. But anyways, they had a railway in the 1800s, and it's still around, which is pretty cool. Doesn't operate, obviously, but the track is still intact, which is pretty remarkable. Norman Corey, if it's in the way, break it off. Yeah, exactly. That's my thoughts to a T. Anyways, I forget what this is programmed to. I think it might be 05. Nope. Oh, wait, maybe. This engine has not been run in a very long time, as you can probably tell. Oh, there we go. It's number 04. So yeah, this engine runs, but like that's wide open throttle right there. So you can hear the motors revving away, but the engine hardly moves. So something is certainly not right with the drive. I don't know how that happened, especially on an Athearn locomotive. This seems quite unusual, but yeah, something is definitely slipping. So I don't know. Maybe I'll have another attempt at trying to take that apart, but these are somewhat complicated to work on from what I've read online. So anyways, that's that. Do you know what the WSOR is? I've seen their SD40s and they're awesome. 4178 has a beautiful K5LA. I can't say I have heard of that railroad now. Have you considered running O-gauge trains? I have some O-scale stuff. I don't know if it's going to work, but I was running this in a previous live stream. I actually have another O-scale engine on the way. My first time buying one in a few years. Yeah, this is what I bought no scale. Now, this is a question I have for all of you, which is, will this locomotive right here work on this layout? Because I've checked, it runs on 3-rail track. My question is, can this modern locomotive work with that controller? Because I saw this thing, I think the guy on eBay, it was a brand new locomotive, and he wanted something like $160 for it, which to me seemed like a really good price. Because I've seen those things retail for like $500, ridiculous prices, and I wanted one, so I just decided to buy it. But what I don't know is if it can work with that controller, because I know that that is kind of old. So let me know. No, yes, it depends. Okay, getting mixed messages here. Hey SMT, I've got an old Athearn SP40 GP40. It doesn't run very well on my main layout, but it runs like a charm on my second layout. Well, if you've got a locomotive which is running well on one layout but not on the other one, I would probably say it's not the locomotive and it's the layout itself. So clean up the tracks, get yourself a track bright, and run that over the rails because they might be oxidized. Get yourself one of these because those will actually scrape the oxidization off. And yeah, that might just fix the problem. It should be fine unless it's Bluetooth. I don't think it is Bluetooth. It's an older release. But that engine kind of has some nostalgia because years ago, in 2013, I went to New York City and I went to Grand Central Station with my dad. And we went to the end of the platform, and that locomotive is a heritage unit on the MTA. And yeah, so we went up there, and the engineer was there, and he was like, "Oh, you can't board the train over here." And we were like, "Oh, we're just rail fans, just checking things out." And they actually let me go up into the cab of that locomotive, so that was just amazing. I believe lifelike HO scale Santa Fe F7. I believe I have a lifelike HO scale F7. When I turn it on, the motor smokes and the wheels slip and spark. It does not sound good. Any idea what it could be? Depends what year it is, but if the motor is smoking, don't run it. Most of the time, it's the commutator that just needs to be cleaned out, and I do that in almost every single one of my videos. So just you know, check out one of the repairs where I clean out the commutator and just follow those steps. It works on every locomotive. However, if the wheels are sparking, that could be a sign of high current draw, which basically means the engine's drawing too much power. Now, if your motor is pulling a lot of amps, which it would be if it's smoking, that could be the problem. It could also mean you've got a short circuit, so I would investigate that. But yeah, never force a locomotive which isn't running right to run, because you'll just end up burning out the motor. And then with a lot of engines, it's not even worth replacing the motor. So not something you want to do. P32 Metro North. Yeah, that's it. I don't know if it's the same number as the one I got to go in the cab of, but beautiful locomotives. Sparking could be dirty wheels, especially if they're brass. It's possible. I've found the sparking wheels are usually more of a common problem with steel wheels, but I don't think Lifelike ever used those. Hey SMT, what will your next expansion be? Should I suggest a industrial park? I think it's probably just going to be more of like expanding what's currently there, just so there's a little more room in the middle, but we'll see. Is it a Bachmann Proto or Lionel Berkshire? It is a Bachmann, but it's Bachmann Williams. Harrison, open the big boy box. Might be some goodies in there. Well, do you want me to open the box right now, or do you want me to include it in a video? Because if there's no addresses or anything inside that box, I'd be happy to open it right now, honestly. Stop saying sparking. It's making me feel like a guilty conclusion. Sorry, I can't read that, but that comment's from Sparky. He thinks we're saying stuff about him. I keep saying sparking. Any plans to buy any more DCC steam locomotives, maybe from Broadway Limited? Maybe. The Santa Fe that was smoking and was sparking was from 1958. I can tell the paint was scratched and it says 1958 on the side of the shell. Is it that old, or is it the motor? I don't know if Lifelike was even around in 1958. I think that was still Varney. So I'm pretty sure Lifelike was built out of Varney. I think Lifelike was only founded in the 60s, if I'm not mistaken. I think he meant coincidence. Okay. We cleaned our club track with mineral spirits and then treated it with no oxide D, a special. Everything's been running great. I'm certainly not against putting ox guards on the layout. The only thing I'm a little bit concerned about is I have a lot of older locomotives with traction tires, and I've heard that that can cause the traction tires to dissolve. I don't know if that's true or not, but some of these locomotives, they don't make the traction tires for them anymore. So if that is true and they break, then I'm kind of SOL. So I'm just not sure. It would probably reduce maintenance, though, so maybe it'd be worth it. I don't know. Which modern train manufacturer do you personally favor most, in your opinion? Why? And same with your least favorite. Probably best value to money in terms of reliability, in terms of a brand new locomotive, would be Caddo. But there's not really a bad one. Atlas is pretty good. Rapido's good. Walters is good. Athern's still very good. I would say the only manufacturer I'm not a huge fan of is Bachmann, but that's not entirely to do with their quality. It's just I feel like they're overcharging for what you get, but they do make some decent locomotives. They just are not as good for what you're paying, in my opinion. I've heard some mixed things about Broadway Limited, too. Some people love Broadway Limited. Some people have had pretty bad experiences. Sparky says Bachmann lasts forever. Some people have the lucky one, because I get comments sometimes and they're like, SMT, I don't know what you're talking about. I've had Bachmann locomotives that are 50 years old and they're still chugging away. I don't doubt it. Sometimes you get the good one, but I've seen the bad ones as well. My buddy Nick bought a Bachmann steam engine in 2003, one of their modern releases, and it's had quartering issues. It's been destroying its own rods. He's had to send it back to them 3 or 4 times. And each time it comes back with more issues. I think he's had it replaced once as well. So they've had some real duds, that's for sure. Atlas Gold Series is awesome. They last a long time, yet they're overpriced. Yeah, exactly. The Atlas engines are very good, though. They've had a good history, too. Broadway seems overpriced. What do you think, SMT? I'm kind of in that group, too. I don't hate Broadway Limited, but their stuff is expensive, and yeah, a lot of people like them, but I have heard some pretty bad stories of their electrical components failing. Here's a comment I got. Unlucky with my Broadway Limited big boy brand new out of the box. The motor and decoder was faulty, causing shorts. Luckily, I got it fixed and it runs amazing. Okay, well, I'm glad that ended well, but that's a perfect example. I've told myself now I'll never buy a Bachmann locomotive again. Their quality has gone down again. I think I bought 2 diesels last year, and they both had problems. Caddo is smooth and quiet. Bachmann is luck of the draw. Sometimes it's good, sometimes you get a lemon. I think it just depends. I feel like Bachmann is probably one of those situations where they've got some employees who have been there for 50 years and they're experts and they know how to put the engines together right, even though the parts are not the highest quality. And then you get some new guys in there who are not as knowledgeable, because it's funny, I've serviced a few modern Bachmann locomotives, and some of them are well put together and the grease is adequate. And there was this one Bachmann locomotive, and I opened it up, and the amount of grease in there was ridiculous. So it was clearly an employee who was not as knowledgeable on putting these things together and way over lubricated it. It was not good. Maybe I'm lucky, but my Broadway Limited has given me limited problems. I own quite a few. Well, there you have it. It's luck of the draw sometimes. Scale trains is best. I can't really say for scale trains. I've heard really good things about them, but I've never actually owned one. I have one on the way, so I'll be able to have my own experience with them, but I don't know. Usually when I'm sharing what I think about a manufacturer, it's kind of like half of my personal experience actually working with their products, and the other half is just what I've heard, because you read enough comments from people saying what they think, you get a good idea of kind of where people stand with certain brands. Is the layout N scale good? Is N scale good to build a layout with? I prefer HO, but if you have limited space, N scale is probably a better choice, just because you don't need as much space with N scale to build something impressive. This is for the viewers. What do you think of Rapido's first attempt at manufacturing model steam locomotives, the Royal Hudson lineup from 2019? Walters is pretty good, especially in terms of value. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I like Walters budget locomotives. I find that they're kind of the last manufacturers actually making some cheaper engines, which I feel like your average consumer could afford pretty easily. Like it's not as big a problem for me now that I have a job. If I want to buy a nicer engine, but it's like I think back to when I was a kid and I was saving up my allowance to buy model trains, and in this day and age, like, trying to find stuff at a reasonable price is really difficult. So Walters isn't exactly giving away locomotives, but still, engines which cost $50, like, that's not that bad, especially for what you get. The only reason I know of model trains is because my dad and I made a model railroad, and I'm just 8. SMT is the new O-gauge locomotive you bought, conventionally controlled, where it should be able to run on tubular track. Conventional just means transformer only. I don't know a lot about the O-scale stuff. I don't think it has any specialty controller, but I'm no expert. We'll find out, but I just figured for the price I would take my chances on it. Scale trains is the way to go. Big boy lash-ups. Yeah, we could probably run the big boy. I'm going to finish off the live stream soon because I think everybody upstairs is probably headed off to bed at this point, and I don't want to keep them up, but got a few more minutes until it's 11, so I'll run the last few trains here. Do you think the Bachmann daylights are a good buy? I don't know. I've owned a few of them over the years, and the modern ones don't seem to run too bad. I haven't had too many issues with that, but as for derailments, they're not so good at staying on the track. That's what I find. So yeah, I don't know if I'd recommend them. About $100 for a nice Kato N-scale locomotive. I don't really think that's too good of a price, but Kato makes great stuff. $100 is not insane for a Kato locomotive. I mean, I feel like 80 or less for a DC one is probably what you want to aim for, but that's not horrible. Gray roadbed track is nickel silver. Yeah, at least for Bachmann and Lifelike. Jerry Span, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, SMT, what's your opinion on World War I trench railroads? They're fascinating. They literally put big guns on tiny 2-foot gauge trains. I'll be honest with you, I don't know a lot about those. Yeah, I don't really have an opinion on that. I'm sure they played an important role, though. It's amazing how you could set up a railroad in such a dire circumstance and actually have it work. Years ago, they had this series. I think it was called Locomotion from British Broadcasting, and they did a piece called War Machines, and they were talking about railroads around the world during the war, and that was really fascinating. If any of you haven't seen that, I would suggest it. Unfortunately, they didn't talk about trench railroads, though. SMT, I mentioned I got a $35 Bachmann earlier. It came with nickel silver rails that replaced all my roadbed with new track. Oh, nice. SMT, Williams locomotives are known in the O-gauge world as pretty much being bulletproof. It will pull more cars and fit on your layout. Okay, well that's good. Do you have any P32 ACDM P40s? Well, not at the moment, but I've got one on the way. Is it difficult to run a locomotive consist together regardless of if the engine is DC or DCC? Not necessarily. I know with DCC you need to set the engines to be speed matched. With DC, you kind of just find two engines which run at the same speed, and provided they're close enough, you should be good to go. But it definitely is another layer. I find it can make derailments a lot worse. That's the big thing, because of course, if you have a locomotive derail, in all likelihood it will cause a short circuit, and then it cuts power to the entire line, at least on DCC, or if the short continues, it stops power from flowing through, because the motor can't get enough power when all the current's being taken up because of the short. When you have two locomotives, sometimes one can push the other along, even if it's bumping along and shorting, so it won't stop, and then you can have some funky things happen. Good day from Australia. Love the channel, mate. Currently building my own layout. Started a channel myself. Keep up the good work. Thank you so much, Ship Creek Railway. Any listeners how to hook up... do any listeners know how to hook up DC direct read voltmeter and a DC amp reader? That's a good question. I've seen that on certain layouts. Of course, I've got this controller which just has it built in, but yeah, it would be interesting to know how that's done. I guess you could also just buy a voltmeter and test it out that way, but it's probably easier just having something always going. The only negative for Kato HO locomotives is that they are not DCC ready. Decoders can be installed with a little work. I mean, DCC ready would be nice, but I don't know. I've heard from some people who install DCC decoders for a living that DCC ready sockets are not always great. I don't know if that's a common opinion amongst the DCC community, but I have heard that some people bypass the socket and they run all the wires directly to the decoder just so that you have a soldered connection. Does anybody know how to hook up lights on a layout? I just bought lights and realized I can make them I can make them light up. I can't find a video. Help, please. Wiring up lights on a layout. Well, if you've got a modern DCC controller, I can't help you because I don't know what the story with DCC is. I think you probably have to get a separate power supply. But for regular lights, it's really simple. You just hook your wires for your lighting up to your accessories terminal and you're good to go. Alternatively, you get yourself an old DC controller and you hook your lights up to the track section, and the advantage there is you can control the voltage, so you can actually dim the lights and make the bulbs last a little longer. But it's very straightforward stuff. My trouble with Kato HO is that their couplers are plastic. Yeah, that kind of sucks, but that's easily fixed. A voltmeter would go across the rails, and amp meter would run in series. Hey SMT, do you have any French trains? I do. I've got a few TGVs. I think this is my entire French high-speed rail collection here. SMT, do you have a Proto 2000 train you can run? Yeah, we can run one of those. I'm gonna have to end the live stream within the next 5 minutes, but yeah, we'll throw that on as the last train. How's about that? Gonna have to replace that. I was gonna say coupler. I'm getting tired. I'm gonna have to replace that switch soon. So many things are derailing here, and it's just because the frog is made of plastic on these switches, and they actually wear down. Like I can't show this on camera because it's it won't show up, but yeah, this part starts to wear down, and then derailments start happening. Really weird problem. Anyways, here's a proto locomotive which I bought a couple months ago, I believe it was. It's kind of a junker, but it runs half decent. Most Kato locomotives are DCC ready. I mean, all 14 I have were. Maybe its older ones weren't. SMT, have you grown up with Thomas and Friends like many other train enthusiasts like me? I did watch the series when I was younger, yeah. The original one, when they were actually using model trains, I had that on VHS, and I loved watching that. That was a terrific show. Yeah, this thing is really slow. My goodness, the big boy's starting to catch up on it. Only Kato N-scale locomotives are DCC ready. Huh, that's funny. I wonder why they would decide to do that with their N-scale lineup, but not HO. Ricky M, how's it going with the layout? Not bad. Except this one switch, which keeps causing all my steam engines to derail. Jesse's starting to look more and more like Nerf Cat for some reason. SMT, I bought a diesel F unit and a daylight paint scheme and all the daylight cars for 20 bucks. Wow, that is a deal. What's the longest train you've made? I don't know, 30, 40 cars long. Anyways, I think I'm going to finish things off here. I want to thank you all so much for joining in. It's always fun chatting trains with everybody, and I hope you enjoyed as well. Anyways, I think we'll finish things off there. Have a terrific night, everyone. Let's read this last comment. The original Thomas and Friends were so much better than this CGI stuff. I 100% agree. I wish they had left it as is, but alas, at least the original is still around. Anyway, have a great night, everyone.